This is just the cheap Hobby King film. You can use you can paint it if you like, or you can use coloured packaging tape. We used to, years ago in my days, my balsa wood days, we used to call it solar film. I guess there are lots and lots of different films available, but this is just the cheap Hobby King film. I'm just ironing this on. I have done models before. It's not brilliant. It does tend to sort of lift a little bit, but it's not bad. It's not bad. You see, I'm doing the bottom section first. That way I can overlap the top section and keep the whole thing fairly neat. The joints can be a lot neater. Because we don't see the bottom as much as we see the top. Because I don't want to catch the foam. Just as well, this is the bottom section. If you've never done this before, it's quite easy. It will, if you set your iron, just test it on a piece of whatever foam you're using, whether it be Dollar Tree foam or Depron or whatever, and just set the temperature just so it doesn't melt the foam. And that's usually about the right temperature. All it has to do is melt the glue on the back of this film. Apart from making it look pretty, it also adds quite a bit of strength. does this film. It's quite easy to wrap around, even on a compound curve. It wraps around. I mean, this is all flat, but on a compound curve, you can actually stretch it and pull it and get it around the curve. Okay, so if you've never used this before, this is the. It's got a backing film on which you have to peel off, which can be a real pig sometimes to get off. I usually find it easier just to nick the back slightly with a knife. It really is quite difficult to get off this. And it can be quite frustrating sometimes. You really have to sort of nick just the backing layer, so you can grab hold of the edge and peel it back. Once you get it started, it's quite easy. There we go. We've got to start. It started so the backing. Oh, I didn't really want to do that. That's the backing. And this is actually the glue. Once it's heated, it glues to the surface. I've used a lot of this on balsa wood in the past, but I've only just started really using it on foam. But it does work. Just trim off that edge. I've just made this a little bit oversized, and what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and get it level with this front leading edge, so I don't have to trim that at all. I'm going to overlap that in the centre a little bit. It's just really a matter of touching in a few spots just to get it to glue that leading edge in place. And I can see that's quite nice. There, the leading edge, and then I'll just wrap that around. I don't have to trim that off now, so I'll go along and just seal that onto the leading edge. I'm going to pull this fairly tight, and again I'm going to tack it in places on this trailing edge. I'm pulling tight as I go. Now we can go all over it and melt the glue. If you get a crease or a wrinkle, it will normally iron out. You can use, if you don't have one of these little irons, you can use your domestic iron. I have used that in the past, before I actually bought one of these. You just got to be a little more careful, set the heat so it's not too hot to make the foam. It likes to stick to itself, the stuff, so when it's on the edge here where it's wrapping round and gluing itself to the bottom panel that I put on it, you might see a little bit of the white glue ooze out. On a colour like red. But it glues very, very well onto itself like that. If you get an air bubble in the middle somewhere, you just prick it with a pin and then iron it down, or use the point of your scalpel and then iron it down. And there we go. That's the. We can go over and. This also, apart from gluing it down, it actually shrinks. It shrinks it too. So if you're operating on an open area, it doesn't. When you wrap it round the open area, you can actually run the iron across, and it will shrink it as well. A heat gun, but you have to be very, very careful, especially if you use a heat gun on the foam. And in the old days when we used balsa, we used to tack it to the balsa ribs with the iron, the sealing iron, and then we would use a heat gun to shrink the film nice and tight. But there we go. So that's the. Now, what I'll do on this one, I'll put the aileron. I've covered the ailerons. If I can remember which one is which. That's that one. That's this one. So. just going to mark that with a seal that in there into the slot a bit. Okay, so it's sealed in and B, so I can see it. Now, I'm just going to enter this. I've not got my hot glue gun switched on, so I can't glue that part in, but we can glue the aileron in. What I'm going to do before I glue this in, I'm going to use a little bit of oil. This is just sewing machine oil, and I'm just going to smear a bit over the hinge, so when I glue these hinges in, it's not going to glue the hinge up, it's not going to glue it so that it won't work. Okay, that's a, oops, it's a test fit for that one, and then I'm going to just pull it out. Most of the way without it coming out all the way, hopefully. And then I'm just going to put some glue on each hinge. Make sure it's clear, then we'll give it a spray. And then I'll just work that hinge back and forwards just to make sure it doesn't glue itself. And then this wire here I will glue into the aileron, but I will use hot glue to do that. And then I just might put a patch over there. I'll take a bit of this covering off and maybe put a little patch of 1mm ply, just to strengthen that up, because this this blue foam is not near as strong as Depron, and I found that this is tending to break away. I'm quite a long way into that hinge, into the no, it's glued itself up on the hinge. Just on one of the hinges. This is the only thing wrong with using super glue to glue these hinges in. You have to be so careful not to glue the hinges. That's where I put the sewing machine oil on. just to help. So the glue doesn't tend to stick. To the hinge pin. Okay, so it's quite free there. And then, as I say, once we glue that in, just put a bit of tape on there just to hold that in place. Once we glue that in, then we'll have the aileron working with the servo. Now, the servo, I will sink the servo into the wing around about there somewhere, and then the rods will go to each side of the aileron arm, or the servo arm, should I say. Okay, alright guys, all for now. Thanks for watching.